Awesome. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So here we are with episode 12. So this is the beginning of, the Dirty Dozen. So I'm real happy that this is my 12th episode with the show. And I got two great guests. And we got some really cool topics that we're going to go over a little bit later. First, I'm going to ask each one of you guys to introduce yourselves, okay? So I'm going to pass to...
my name is Matt.
Matt.
Full name or...
Yeah, whatever the fuck you want to say.
Matt's good.
Matt?
Yep.
And Matt, who do you play? Who all do you play with?
Yep. So I sing and play guitar with Cosmic Halitosis, and I also play drums in a band called I Defeat I as well.
Oh, wow. So you're in I Defeat I?
Yeah.
Who's all in I Defeat I right now?
Shane and Shane.
Okay, cool.
Big Shane, little Shane.
I like Shane a lot, and I've heard of I Defeat I multiple times. I've never seen you guys, so I look forward to trying to check you out. And I just saw Cosmic Halitosis for the first time. What was that? 2 weeks ago or so? You guys were out at Bad Habits.
Just last week, right?
Was it just last week? Out at Bad Habits. And that was the first time I'd seen Cosmic Halitosis, and I think I've seen most of the bands that I'll pass. Introduce yourself.
Edward Furry Pants. How's everybody doing? Thank you.
This is my friend Kenny Ballztank of countless bands. I was thinking, Kenny, I thought about this on the ride over. I think the first time like we really met was that show in it's 2018, I think, 2018 or early 2019, way up in West Virginia in Cumberland. It was that former strip bar. I think it was called like the Red House.
The Red House Inn or something
and Brian
like that.
Sefcik was up there with Sourpuss, and it was the first time I'd ever seen the Downstrokes were part of that. That was a great fucking show. It was a great night. I came up with a camera, and I got a motel room. Me and this crazy buddy, we stayed the whole night, and that was a great, fantastic show. Very memorable.
That was the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was really neat. So let's talk about some of the bands. First, I want you to share with our audience your podcast. Tell everyone about your podcast, how they can follow that, and then let's talk about some of the bands you're playing in right now.
Well, you know Tuna for Sushi, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know Brian. Well, he came to me one day and said, "What do you think about?" He gave me the idea. We wanted more about music. And we wanted to break out some of the local bands also. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, good. I could break out my bands. That's great." I loved it anyway from the start, and I was like, "Yeah, I thought it'd be great." I had never done anything like that before, but I just said, it's been a ball ever since. I mean, we pick out pretty good lists, I think, and a lot of people are into it. We've had even guys interview us, and punk rock TV or something like something like that. Punk rock family television, I think.
What?
I'm fucking this all up.
Tell us the name of the podcast and how people can follow it.
That's right. It's called Punk Up the Airwaves.
Punk Up the Airwaves.
And we are on Punk Rock Demonstration. And I think there's a couple other things on there that I forget.
And you post on your Facebook page too when you do your episodes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we do have a Facebook page, Punk Up the Airwaves. It shouldn't be too hard to find. How
long have you guys been recording?
It's a little over. I want to say probably 2 years.
2 years.
Something like that.
That's awesome.
We're at about 112 episodes, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah,
but there's the breaks too. It's not like all the time, but
right. Yeah. Same with us. We don't mind our breaks either. So let's talk about how many bands are you currently active with?
Well, I guess Use Once and Destroy is kind of on a hiatus, I guess, because
that's a wonderful band.
Our drummer Ty, he's he's in college right now, so we kind of waiting for him to get done with that. But he comes back in the summertime, and that'll probably be active again.
Your album's gonna be called Ty Goes to College.
Ty Goes to College, right?
Yeah, that's a good. So let's go through.
We'll get Jared Shear to fucking
do the graphics.
Logo,
Yeah. All right, so let's go through the lineup with Heroes Unsung and give everyone a good shout out.
That's right. So John Bowling is the bass
Bowling,
player.
Who's
Ty
actually
is
Ty's his son. Yeah,
is also in the band. He's the drummer, and then there's Rob, who's on guitar, and then Mike.
Mike Nowd,
yeah, Mike Nowd, who's on the other guitar.
Yeah, I'm longtime friends with Mike Nowd. We went to college together, and I was real happy. I hadn't seen him in decades. I was real happy to run into him. So who else? What other bands you got going?
And then I got the Duets, of course. I like seeing you wear the shirt, buddy. Thank you.
Another Jared Share. Jared also did our graphics for.
Yeah, he's the man, dude.
Yeah, everyone loves him. Yeah.
So that's me on guitar, and then that's Jamie Dreadful on bass, and then Jim DeWoots on drums.
Is that what the band's named after? DeWoots?
Yeah.
This is a legit question.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. No relation at all.
I didn't actually know his last name, so I was like, oh, is that where that came from?
No, God damn it, Maddie. That's not his real last name.
I'm
What's
sorry.
wrong with you? Is my Ballztank my real last name?
I thought it was at first.
Come on. You know it's not really Ramirez. Does he look fucking Mexican to you? That guy's not fucking me. He's not El Salvadorian, I'm telling you that.
And the last band that you're with is Cosmic Halitosis.
Yep, and then there's this one, of course.
And that's who else is in?
Jake White is the bass player.
Jake, I just friend requested him. Matt, let me ask, how long have you been playing? And let's talk about how you started playing. And after that, I want you to share a little bit on some of your favorite influence as a guitar player.
Sure. Well, like just playing like in general, or with this band?
Yeah. In general.
So, let's see. I think it was about like 2008, maybe. Like I had some friends that had started a band, and they needed a singer. And I was in Boy Scouts, and my friend John was like, we need someone to come in, like we're looking for a vocalist. And the only instrument I played was drums, but I was just like, well, it's a punk band, like I can sing for that,
Right.
So, I tried out, we did a couple Ramones songs, and that was kind of my first thing. So I sang for a couple bands, just as like the vocalist, but I was never really crazy about that, because I'm a very shy person. So I didn't really know what to do with my hands when I'd be singing, you know what I mean? Like I needed something to kind of do. So at the time I was kind of learning how to play guitar, and then those bands kind of fizzled out. And then I was like, well, I was writing lyrics for those bands, and I'm learning how to play guitar, so I can, all I really have to do left is just put some chords behind the lyrics. And that's kind of how Cosmic started. It wasn't really like meant to kind of be anything. It was just like I had an 8-track, like a little digital recorder. And so at the time I could just play all the parts. So I would I'd write the song. I'd basically start with the drums, hit record, run, do the drums, run back, turn the recorder off, run back, do the bass, run back, do the guitar, do that, layer all the parts up. And it just kind of went from there. It never really intended to go anywhere. It was just sort of like something to kind of do. But yeah, no. So Cosmic, I guess, has existed since like 2010, but just in all sorts of different iterations. I mean, we've had so many different lineups throughout the years, and I don't like using originally it wasn't ever supposed to be like a solo kind of thing, but it's just like I could never find anybody to actually stay in the band with me. So out of necessity, it kind of became like that, But once with these guys, it's kind of, this is the first kind of like unit I feel like it's become. So.
Are you enjoying that experience, that collaborative experience?
Yeah. I mean, these guys are like, they're just as, if not more stoked about it, Like it's just it's always tough to find. Well, I mean, I had a lot of friends, that would play, and they had but they also had like 5 other bands too, and it was hard to kind of, find people that were willing to kind of, I'm not going to ask someone to prioritize it, but just put equal effort. And I feel I feel like Kenny does he's really into it, even though he's in like 5 other bands as well. So it's been fun, dealing with these guys.
Don, the guy had a vision, and I said, fuck. It actually took us a little bit. Like, this is the story, man. When we met, this isn't really that long of a story either. But when we met, he was in a band called Baby Razors. I was in the Runs, like
right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I like the Runs.
I just loved them. They were like a cross between like the Circle Jerks meets Bikini Kill, and I was like, oh, I'm sold. This is great.
Right.
And so, I kept getting them on shows and shit because, I liked playing with them anyway. I liked them. They were good kids. I know you're in the 30s and shit.
Well, this is a while ago, man.
You're a kid to
Yeah,
me,
it was a
you know
while
what I mean?
back.
I'm fucking 47, some 48, something like that. I don't even know myself. I gave up, But, so I'm like, okay, so finally COVID hit. You know what I mean?
Oh, hell yeah, we know
And
what
it's just,
you mean.
I was into Stinkoids at the time, and that fucking just died. Jimmy didn't want to play. He almost died, man. He got that shit and almost died.
Right.
And so that was it, man. We weren't playing anymore. And then I see this guy strumming along on the guitar and shit or whatever and fucking on Facebook, you know what I mean? I said, I knew he lived up the street because I had to drop off a track, you know what I mean? He lived right up the street from me, you know? I said, hey, man, let's get together and jam, and fucking that was it. And we hooked up and we've fucking been partying pretty much ever since. There's a little bit issues of, some lineups too ourselves, you know what I mean? We kind of, maybe I'll get him in the duets or
Right.
He was almost in the duets there for the in his second or two, you know what I mean?
Going back to the COVID and the Stinkoids, wasn't it the Stinkoids when we did that live stream at the Let There Be Rock school during the COVID?
With the Exiles.
Yeah, Exiles were part of that, and we had Brian Sefcik up there. He was with Sourpuss. I remember them up there too. And I was thinking like that. Nick and I worked real hard through COVID. I mean, I think we did a lot. We did live streams. We continued to work with musicians and artists and even venues. To try to survive through COVID, we did a bunch of the live streaming, and I was always happy that you were part of that. Let's bring up the first graphic that we have, Nick, and I love this. This is this another? This is Jared too, right?
Well, that's a good story. So Dave Rinker from Grinding with Strangers. This is a little group that throws parties, I guess, puts on shows, but they go out to shows too and visit everybody, their supporters.
They've got a magazine going on. They've got a great web page going.
They're great. I love them.
Yeah, me too.
I love them. So he come to me and he said, "Hey man, I was thinking about making this little thing for a promotion, you know what I mean, with your face on it, and Uncle Sam,
Right. Yeah.
And he said, you got any ideas on who to get? I was like, well, of course, you need to get Jerry to do that. I mean, you kidding me? To be perfect. And I don't think he could have done any better.
No, and one of the things I really like seeing, and I want us all three of us to talk about this, the regional scene. There is a real growth in that. That's something that's unique for this time period. I've often said, I'm happy that George O'Connell and Teresa, who have bad habits, that they see the value in supporting a venue dedicated to the independent music,
well,
DIY.
to the underground. Too.
Yeah. There's not
just that.
Yeah,
it's the underground. That's a different kind of dedication.
Yeah.
You could do cover bands constantly,
right?
And there might be a cover band here and there, or something, because
Yeah. What? So with the local scene, let's talk about, are there any things that you guys think we could do that would help to build the audience? Like, that's one of the things that always upsets me when I go to the shows that they have bad habits, especially when they're able to get these bands in that have come a long fucking way to play in Martinsburg, and I've went and I've seen some really killer bands there that have come, a couple of hours. And I think it would be great if we could get just a bigger audience. So anything that you guys think that would help, let's put it out there. I know a lot of the guys that help to put the local scene together are going to watch this show, So, well, Matt, I'll start with you, please.
If I knew, I'd be doing
it. Damn, you don't have no voodoo?
No. Kenny, he handles a lot of the promotion and stuff for us.
And you're great at it, Kenny.
Yeah.
I want you to know, like, you have a great online presence. I see the work that you do.
Yeah.
I see all the groups that you post in, and I know that you do everything that you can to reach as many people as you can.
Absolutely. I mean, once I wasn't even sold on Facebook. My wife made me the page.
And
I just refused. I hated it. I didn't like MySpace. I didn't like any of that. So I fucking And, she's like, well, fucking, you're in a band again, asshole. That's how they do it. And I said, next thing I know, all right. I gave it a couple of weeks and then, was still determined not to do it. But then I caved and I looked at it and it kind of came and I was like, this is genius.
Yeah.
If you're if you're trying to promote it.
Yeah.
And it was working because you were able to fucking hit all these groups, get in all these groups, and then you'd hit all. And then it was so quick.
Just invite everybody.
But then Facebook just started fucking taking away all that shit and then tightening it down, and now it takes you fucking everything in the world to get all your message through.
And you got to do one at
so much more effort, man. And I'm like,
I do that with our show. Like I cut and paste.
It gets so frustrating.
Oh.
And now all of a sudden I feel like I'm the enemy because some weirdo. He's probably not even from this country. He's posting fucking, like porno and shit on the damn thing. And that's kind of, you see that shit all the time, but you can't see my flyer,
right. Or punk up the airways. Don't
show.
You guys have problems getting your stuff out?
Can't share that at all. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I even tried to get on there.
Insane.
People were like, oh, you got to get a link wire or something, or whatever it is, LinkedIn or link something. And I forget what they said, but I did, right? But it's still so hard to fucking, you got the I stamp on it, but whatever it is,
I call Facebook proof of life. I try not to. I don't do anything other than Facebook. I don't know Instagram. I don't even use my fucking Gmail.
That's even worse boring. It's mostly just women fucking posting their selfies and shit all day long.
Yeah.
Bunch of Instagram models and shit. All those.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. This is great.
Yeah.
I scroll like band thing. All right, cool. Scroll. It's like Facebook too. Like scroll.
Look, the one thing I wanted to say to you, Matt, is your generation and the younger ones, you all have it. You're spoiled. That you can go online and find out what shows are going on at what venues. When we were young, you were lucky to find flyers. You would go look at flyers. I remember going to D.C. to grab the city paper, the Baltimore City paper. You had to make a real effort to find out about shows back in the 80s, 90s, all before the internet. So,
but I think it also it flips itself on its head.
Commander Salamander, and they had it there too.
The 930 would put out theirs went for months. Their little flyer would go for months, right? Because and you'd be like, mark that date. What were you?
Well, I was just gonna say, but on the flip side, though, it's now anybody can do this. It's it makes it harder if you see this kind of stuff. If I see something pop up, I'm not as enticed to check it out because of how much stuff I see. I feel if you saw a flyer for a Black Flag show or something, that was the only thing you knew about. You were I'm going to that show. So I feel there's pros and cons to all. The fact that when I would record all my shit, I could put it up online for free. You couldn't do that in the 70s, but it's but now everybody can do that. So if you're trying to have someone look at your shit, they're well, why am I gonna look at this guy's stuff? I got this guy and that guy too. So it's a curse, I think, for certain ways. But I get what you're saying.
I almost miss the days where you just show up.
Right.
I'll go to Guido's. There's always something cool there.
Right.
Fuck it.
Who's playing there tonight? And you'd walk in and be like, what's his name? Adam Heinzman. It might be what was that? The band he had back in the day.
Is that the Fudge Tunnel?
No, there was. It'll come to me when you mentioned Black Flag, right? I want to share this story with you. I love Henry Rollins.
Internal Void.
That's it. Internal. Yeah. I remember seeing them in there, and they had. Oh God, I'll tell this story. Then Henry Rollins. It was after St. Patrick's Day, so they had this green beer in there, real cheap, and I drank way too much of the green. I got so sick from
way too much.
I got horribly sick from the green beer. But going with Black Flag, I got to see Henry Rollins do not stand up, but spoken word.
Oh, yeah.
It was called DC Space. It was an amazing club down near the White House. Fucking Ian MacKaye was there. Henry Rollins' mother was there. And when I get there, he had this dude that was a heckler from the night before show up. And Henry's in this motherfucker's face, and just, and
oh my gosh.
the dude just didn't say nothing to Henry the rest of the night. But I got Henry to sign. It was one of his books. It was called Bang. Got Henry Rollins' mom to sign it, and I gave it to my grandmother for her birthday, and she just meant nothing to her. I just wanted her to support the artist like his mom supported him, kind of thing. Let's take a look at the next graphic while Kitty rifles for a cold beer.
One down at the bottom.
You've got you guys have a show coming up this coming Saturday night here in downtown Martinsburg at Tilty McFlippers.
Is it this Saturday or next Saturday?
It's this Saturday, right? Yeah.
Okay, is it this Saturday? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah, man.
I guess this Saturday is next Saturday, right?
Less than a week away.
I mean, it is kind of really soon. You know what I mean?
We did an episode with Jay of SPK Entertainment. He was on our episode about similar to the one we're going to talk about, MK Ultra. So you guys have a bill coming up with Wayward Brigade. I love those guys. I think it's a great band. I'm not sure who's in Meatbot. Tell me a little bit about Meatbot.
I don't know. That's a good band name.
You got me, buddy.
Any band name.
Okay,
cool.
cool.
I haven't played with them yet.
And FYA, who all's in that?
Well, that's my drummer, Jim, again.
I thought
from the
so.
Doo-Wats.
Yeah.
And so that's Chris Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in all kinds of bands from the 90s. He was in Slippery Pot Pie.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember, like, he's been in a couple other metal bands and stuff. But he was in Out of Spite, too, with Adam.
Okay.
Yeah, back then, that's right. And Rachel.
Who's Adam playing with now?
Oh, he's in Heroes and Song, buddy.
Right. That's who
right.
I thought. Yeah. Yep. Can we look at the next graphic there? This is a show.
And
another
there's a couple other boys. Ew, that's you. Ew.
This is another show.
Yeah,
Okay.
he picked his nose. You told him specifically not to pick his nose.
I wipe my yeah. This is Punk the Panhandle coming up in April. I know they've put a lot of work into this. This is what I was talking about with when you have bands that have come a long way to play the venue and to play the event. So this one is far enough away. I hope everyone marks their calendar. And Kenny, what are your some of your favorite bands on this bill? And I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Well, I gotta say, I just played with the Goons recently. They blew me away. That was a great show.
That was the one over in Frederick.
Yep.
Yeah, just after Christmas,
the Eagles
right?
Club.
Yeah,
the Eagles Club.
I'm sorry I didn't make it to that.
That was great. I love all these bands, though. So I'm a little blind, but I know Like No Tomorrow is fucking great. That's a great band. They let me play their music on the on podcast too, along with the Goons and Wayward Brigade. Also, that's a local favorite. But Luxury Teeth, man, that's a fucking great fucking band. Of course, Heroes and Song. Coffee with Lions, man. I love all of them. Can I move this a second and just look at this again?
Yeah.
Well, I Defeat I, Maddie. Of course,
so
I love I Defeat I.
We're going to play that too.
So there's all kinds, man. There's The Power. That's fucking, that's Ronnie Moe.
Oh, okay.
From, Middle Age Brigade.
Yeah, and Savage Mountain. He's part of Savage Mountain. What about for you? What are some of the bands that stand out on that bill in April?
So hold on, I'm not done. Because Who Me is a fucking great. I love Bill Zilla. You love Bill Zilla.
I do too.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
now.
yeah. Bill Zilla is something.
Star Cars. So I think that's Sab Gray from who we just talking about, Iron Cross.
Right.
So that dude's got a new band called Star Car. So I haven't seen them yet, but I'm sure they're great. And Sick Move seemed pretty cool to me. And what is that? ADD Ramon. See, I love all the band. Hudson Falcons. Is that what that is? Yep, they're all great. Did I miss anybody?
No. And
no, this whole thing is fucking.
I agree. I agree. I thought it was a top-notch lineup.
This is going to be the show of the show of the show that the yearly show. Man, this is great.
Right. So you're playing that bill. Are there any bands on that bill that you're looking forward to?
The only thing missing is Cosmic Halitosis.
That would be
cool. That's about
cool.
the only thing missing.
Yeah. Oh, they usually have some cancellations, so don't be surprised if you don't get asked to.
Exactly.
I'm not super familiar with a lot of the bands, to be totally honest. But I mean, I'm excited to see.
And you're going to be there. You perform there. Awesome. Let's take a look at our next graphic.
He's what he meant to say. Let me speak for Maddie. I love the do-whats. I cannot wait to see the do-whats.
Well, they have us playing different days again.
No shit.
Remember
That's my favorite band.
Last year we played separate days too, which
I'm
sucked.
speaking for you right now. Don't worry about it.
We'll go ahead and plug too. This is coming up not too long. Saturday, February 1st, Heroes Unsung, the band that Kenny has on his shirt.
Paperback Tragedy, that's a great band.
Neanderthal, right. And I don't know
the other one. One Beloved, is that what that says?
One Revived, I think.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, me neither. Look, but I want to plug Tilty McFlippers is a cool venue. Have you been there yet?
No, I'm excited though.
Yeah, it's real neat. It's like a pinball.
I haven't been there.
Oh,
no,
you
I
guys
haven't
are
been
gonna
there yet.
love it, dude.
I can't wait.
It's like an old school
seen the
arcade with a bar.
It's great. It's genius.
Fuck, I thought so too.
David Buster's fucking had a thing back. That's a huge one there. I'm expecting this one not to be quite as big.
I thought it felt like a Chuck E. Cheese's, but for adults. All right, let's do the next graphic. What else have we got? We got a couple of shows that are coming up. We figure we go ahead and kill them all.
I guess they're missing cheese sticks and.
They have food there too.
Oh yeah,
pizza and
steak
just
quesadillas or some shit.
Bar food.
Nice,
bar food.
Hell yeah!
I love.
Now I'm even slightly more excited. That's great. I love when I don't have to go somewhere else and eat something.
Yeah, me too.
Play my set, get something to eat, and that's fucking great.
A couple slices of pizza. There's a show coming up Saturday, February 15th. I love Johnny Lethal. Are you guys familiar with him?
Oh, yeah, I played a show, at least one show. I might have played two, but I'm pretty sure
he comes all the way from Frostburg to play down here.
Yeah,
and then I've made friends with these young guys, the Delosers. They're really neat, so that's another show coming up at Tilty McFlippers.
Is that how that's pronounced? Man, I fucked that because I've been going Delosers.
Who's in Trap Rat? How do you say
that's Jamie fucking Dreadful.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's how you say it, Trap Rat, and that's his wife,
right?
Adrian. And
I tried to get Jamie on the show one day, but he couldn't do a Sunday. Do we have any more? What's the next graphic after that?
And Ballztank, I'll tell you what.
Oh no, wait. We'll wait.
Ballztank is a great band. That is
okay.
That's actually one of my favorite local bands out there, boy. They are fucking. Even sometimes they flip it up and it's the drummer singing most of the songs. And no matter what it is, man, if it's the guitar player singing or it's just whatever they're doing, all of it is great. It's a fucking great. I've seen them like 3 or 4 times, maybe. I think something like that.
Here, I thought I wanted to do this question so we lead up to the next still image. Of all the shows you've seen, what's the one memory that your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Let me tell you this crazy story kind of thing.
Like just any show at all?
Yeah.
Like my favorite show I've ever seen?
And why? And one that really, like, you might have like 12, but let me tell you this one.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, so I got to see Motorhead twice, which was a band like I never thought I would see, and like they're like my favorite band.
Yeah.
I got to see Slayer, so like probably like those were like some of the top that I've seen. But I mean, if you ask me like 5 minutes later, like I'll probably have a different answer for you. But no, I mean those are two bands that like and I didn't realize this actually. Now this actually kind of makes it more cool because so sort of a comfort thing for me is I go on Setlist FM and I'll pull up concerts that I've seen and just like review the set lists because anything's on there. And I didn't realize when I saw Slayer, it was the last tour that Jeff Hanneman did with them, and I saw them on October. Well, Kenny was there too.
Yep.
October 6th was when we saw them, and then his last show with Slayer was October 20th. Wow. And so I didn't realize at the time how significant that was.
Right.
So I say that, or last year I saw Descendants twice, and Descendants are also my favorite band. I've got 5 million favorite bands.
Yeah, me too.
And Descendants were another band that like I had never gotten to see, and so I'd say maybe Motorhead and Descendants were like the two bands that I never thought I would get the chance to see, and I did.
Yeah, Kenny.
I was going to say one of my shows, but I'm with him, man. All right, it was the UK Subs. I was fucking in high school. I wasn't supposed to be there. I snuck out to see it. It was it. I'm fucking, that punk rock is for me. I love the camaraderie that they had. Everybody get up and singing the songs and shit.
Yeah.
And that's what turned me on. I was like, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Before that, I saw the special, so I'm going to say that that's my second. But, you know, I like the rawness and the rock thing and the fucking, you know what I mean? But I dig on some ska shit, too. And everything else, you know what I mean? I love it all, man. Rock and roll, anything.
For me, like...
Hippie music, too.
I'll tell, you know... I'll tell another one. I won't tell the Chromax story, but I'll tell another one. I got to see, and I'm so proud of this, dude. I mean, seriously, I got to see Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics for my 21st birthday. My 21st birthday at 9:30 Club. And can you pull up the next picture? Here we go. And that's what I look like. That's what I look like for my 21st birthday. You know, I was at Shepherd. I just discovered hardcore punk and stuff like that, and I stole the hairdo from Shannon Larkin of at the time Rat Child, but now he's considered one of the greatest drummers in the world. He's with the Godsmack, right? He plays with Godsmack.
Oh, okay.
But he had this hairstyle.
Well, you ever see Dave Vanian in the 80s when they were all goth? The Damned were all goth. He did that too. He did the half blonde, half black. But my favorite part of the story is like the black half started falling out because I guess we had probably left the dye in too long or whatever. But yeah. So I was always proud of that, you know. I loved Wendy O. Williams. What a tragic life.
Did she saw a car and a half?
No, but the reason I wanted to see her was when I was like a teenager. She had been on like ABC, did this rip-off show called Fridays, right? It was like a Saturday Night Live, but it came on Fridays, right? They had Wendy O. Williams, and she came out with this chainsaw and cuts a television into, I'm like 13, 14 years old. I'm like, you know. So I was intrigued by Wendy Williams ever since. I thought Metal Priestess, I thought that was a great fucking album. And the tour I saw was Maggots, which I loved Maggots. They do this whole story thing in there. I think they even have Vincent Price from like the old The Fly. You know, he does the narration in it. But I always thought that was a great album. I always thought she was a great pioneer, a female, you know, pioneer, great artist. All right. So I got one more picture. I'm going to share. I picked this picture out for you, Kitty, right? There it is, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's me with Ron Jeremy, I think maybe about 2001 over here.
You didn't blow him or nothing, did you?
At this strip bar called Millennium, right? I'm driving home from work, and I see
Man, he wasn't stripping, was he?
Comedy. He was doing comedy.
All right.
But, yeah. Ron Jeremy, right? I nearly wrecked my car to get in the parking lot to go.
I can't wait hopefully he's stripping.
I mean, all right. So I'm a degenerate. This is something you and I have often discussed in private, but yeah. Anyway,
I'm not exactly sure how much of a degenerate you are.
Yeah, and much less.
There might be some things I don't know, buddy.
And I will say, I also met Steve Wilkins. At the other strip bar up here, they have one called Legs, and he was up there. I did my 38th birthday party at Legs one time. That's a great photo too. I have. Jasmine St. Clair on my lap, and she had just set the world record for
Jasmine St. Clair.
She did a gangbang world record back then.
Okay.
I'm sure it's been defeated many times.
I think I've seen that meme.
So,
I think I know what you're talking about.
All right, so let's plug anything that you guys want, and get past the awkwardness before we get into our conspiracy theory.
Why don't you tell about our new album that we?
Yeah, let's plug it. Let's talk hard.
So so we started recording over the summer with Mark from High Horse Cavalry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. So Cosmic has always done we have 2 albums with like 10 tracks each, and I like the idea of like keeping that like a consistent kind of thing. But right now we have like enough for like an EP, so I'm not sure if and that's basically done more or less. So I'm kind of torn whether we want to drop like 5 songs. But yeah, they're pretty much done. I mean, I got to go back a couple times. A lot of most of the stuff that we've been playing is going to be stuff off of the EP that we're working on. But I'm also like kind of thinking about maybe trying to like do something more with it, like some sort of like punk rock opera Tommy kind of thing, because all the songs are like about very similar. They're all thematically very similar, and I like the idea. I like how on like Tommy and Quadrophenia, how like a lot of the songs will have like one part of one song, maybe just for like 5 seconds,
right,
or just like kind of interludes. And I've always wanted to do something kind of like that, So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. That's just something that I have had kind of spinning around in my head,
Let me ask both of you guys. I'm curious about this. In the way that you enjoy consuming media, and do you ever think about actually doing like a vinyl record? Is this something that, I'm curious because I know vinyl is making a real comeback. And I've seen a lot of people who were like, I'll do a limited edition vinyl. I think that's awesome.
I'd love to. I mean, that's how I love records. I'm like,
me too.
I have a lot of records, and I like CDs. I like, I don't really fuck with cassettes, but I mean, we have cassettes. That's what we sell. That's kind of like what we had, that was what was offered. I was like, yeah, we'll do cassettes, and they have like a little download code. But no, I'd love to do vinyl if there was, if that was an option. It's expensive though. I think that's really the problem is like, to be honest, like, it's not like something you can really go and press like I don't know. From what I've understood,
you're not
it's like
paying $1 for a record these days.
Right. From what I understand, it's like it's kind of like you do a big box, and like I just don't know if like we're at the point where it would be worth
the
it.
Money, right?
But I mean, it would be awesome. That'd be awesome, though.
Yeah. I think, wasn't it the Downstrokes? I think they did a print of one of their records not too long ago.
Yeah, I bought that actually at a record store up there.
Yeah, I think I have a copy of it too. So I do know that they do them. I was just curious how often. Now, so do you guys mostly do your music with your bands online? I know Bandcamp. Is that something that you guys are doing?
Yeah, he's got
Let's talk about that.
Bandcamp.
We have a Bandcamp, and then I also like I just do the whole thing where it's like. I use DistroKid basically to, it's like a flat, it's like $20 a year, I think. And it's basically, it uploads your stuff for all the different streaming services. I do that, and I think that's cool. I mean, I like people having access to this stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
I
don't know. What am I like? I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like, there's a lot of like kind of people like, I mean, bands get ripped off doing that stuff. And I'm well aware of that.
Right.
But the thing is, like, I'm not gonna make this my career, Like,
you do this because you love it and you want people to consume and hear your art.
Exactly,
right?
And it's like, for me, it's just like, okay, $20 a year for anybody to access all the stuff anytime they want. That's okay with me. It's for people to be able to access it. I mean, if people want to like buy our shit and pay to like listen to music, and every once in a while, like a friend will like throw $10 to download it, and that's great. But it's just like, but I'm not gonna like. Be like, oh, like you're not gonna pay me, like you can't listen to my music. It's like just take it, please. I put all this work into it.
Right.
Just like please listen to it, like.
Yeah. My film is online for free.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I'd rather people see it than.
I mean, if they want to give me money, I mean, please. Yeah. But
what about you, Kenny? Where do you guys with some of your bands? Where all do you guys put your music?
Yeah, you can find the new Do What's album, Discombobulated, on the Bandcamp there. Mm-hmm. You know what, Don? Didn't you want to talk about? Let's talk about your nephew, man. Have they found him yet?
I didn't put that graphic in that show, but I encourage anyone go to my Facebook page, and I appreciated that you shared it. And so my nephew has been missing since December 20th. I have it posted on my Facebook page. My film is called Trailer Trash, a film journal. He's in the film. My niece, his sister, was murdered about 7 years ago. He's been in a real downward spiral ever since that. And for whatever reason, he's in fucking Baltimore. He's addicted. He's all strung out. But we're really worried, So please, I'll share it again on my Facebook. I didn't put the graphic in the show because I'm optimistic, and we can, I don't mind talking. We'll talk a little bit about addiction, like, and punk, because for me, like, art is the reason that my life stayed together, right? I look at family members. I've lost a lot of family members, and my family suffered a lot from addiction. But it was because I became obsessed with art when I was a much younger man that always kept me out of trouble. And I had to have some degree of stability in my life to be able to make art, to be able to listen to, see other artists, to be able to concentrate. So, I'm happy I found the things that made me passionate when I was a younger person. Punk is the first step in that life, So, thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that, Kenny, and I appreciate your concerns, and I know you've seen, unfortunately, what street thugs do to have done to our country. I think that's just a reality. I thought when we were younger, it would be less. Like, America would get past that crack thing. I remember crack being the first real thing that fucked up rural America. And I always thought, well, that, we'll get past it, or, So to see us in the middle of, like, the fentanyl crisis, and to know the impact it's had in Martinsburg, Hagerstown, Frederick, it's deeply troubling, and unfortunately, my nephew's wrapped up in that, so we'll see what happens. So, let's go ahead and let's get into our conspiracy part of the show. The one thing I thought we would do, because and we'll get a little bit more lighthearted and relaxed. One of my all-time favorite conspiracy theories, or whatever you want to call it, is from Frederick, Maryland. It's Dr. Frank Olsen. He was a researcher at Fort Detrick. And when I first got out of college, I went from Shepherdstown over to Frederick, Maryland. I worked with developmentally disabled adults. I worked in these group homes, right, for a little company called Community Living. And they had these homes in Amber Meadows, right? I slept there. I would stay. I was always proud of it. I was one of the few male staff that worked in female houses. I was trusted that much. But I was right across the street from Fort Detrick. So, I had a lot of experience. And then it was an Unsolved Mysteries episode on Frank Olsen, where I first learned the story. So we're going to watch about 5 minutes. We're going to relax and watch about 5 minutes of a clip from the Y-Files, right? I love the Y-Files. Your friend John Bowling's wife, Donna Bowling, is a big fan of the Y-Files. Anyone that wants to get into conspiracy theories or learn about conspiracy theories, I suggest starting with Y-Files. They're the most, like, PG-9. I mean, they're like, kids can watch this and be entertained. So let's do it. This one's a little dark. I don't know if I'd have a kid watch this one. This was an excellent episode. Frank Olsen was aware that the CIA had dosed entire villages in Europe to observe the results. Many innocent people died from these experiments, but he was surprised that he would be the unwitting subject of an experiment. And Frank didn't react well. A few days later, he submitted his resignation, but he was talked into staying. It was suggested that he see a psychiatrist to help him cope with the effects of the experiment and the stress of his work. Frank agreed. Lashbrook drove Frank Olsen to New York to meet with Dr. Harold Abramson.
Yeah, this is the guy he called after the jump, right?
Yep. Dr. Abramson was actually an allergist that worked for the CIA. He pretended to be a psychiatrist, but Frank didn't know this. After a couple of sessions, Dr. Abramson convinced Frank to check himself into a hospital so he could recover from stress and exhaustion. Frank was actually fine with this. He was looking forward to the time off and was already picking out what books to bring with him. And that night, he and Lashbrook signed into the Statler Hotel, room 1018A. Frank had a nice conversation with his wife. She remembered him sounding more peaceful than he'd been in a long time. He watched a little TV and went to bed. At 2:30 a.m., he was dead on the street below the window. Over the next 12 hours, a cleanup and a cover-up by the CIA ensued. The police investigation was quickly closed. Frank Olsen's family was told he died from jumping or falling out a window. About 20 years later, more details about MKUltra emerged, and the Olsen family received a settlement. And almost 20 years after that, the case would take another turn.
Frank Olsen's wife Alice passed away in 1993. Their children decided to have Frank's body exhumed and reburied next to his wife. But Frank's children had an additional plan. They had James Starr, a medical examiner professor, conduct a second autopsy. Starr said there were no cuts on Frank's body and no shards of glass, which would have been expected by jumping through a window. And even though Frank landed on his back, his skull above his left eye had a blunt force trauma injury. He had another serious wound on his chest. Starr said of his findings,
I think Frank Olsen was intentionally, deliberately, with malice aforethought, throw him out of the window.
Frank's sons sued the CIA again, but because of the agreement they signed in 1975, the judge had to dismiss the case. But the judge did say, even though the case couldn't proceed as a matter of law, the allegations made by the family against the CIA, though they sounded far-fetched, appeared to be the truth. Since the lawsuit couldn't proceed, Frank Olsen's sons went to the press. They flat out said the CIA murdered their father and covered it up. They also produced interesting documents. In 1954, just a few months after Frank Olsen's death, the CIA executed a document with the Department of Justice that gave the CIA authority to grant CIA employees immunity from any crime, including murder.
A license to kill.
Exactly. And there's a handbook released in 1953, the year of Frank's death, called the CIA Study of Assassination. It's fascinating, and I'll link it below. It describes that the best way to assassinate a target is to drop them from at least 75 feet onto a hard surface. The manual says when successfully executed, it causes little excitement and is only casually investigated. In fact, the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence organization, used Frank Olsen's death as an example of a perfect murder due to the skill with which it was executed. Now, while there is still
Go
no
ahead and
official
pause it
admission
right
of
there
guilt-
for a minute, Nick, because I do want us to close with like maybe another minute. But I thought we would go ahead and take a pass at this story at this point, because that's the core of the whole Frank Olsen story, is that he was murdered, that he was thrown out of this motel room window. I loved how this one tied it into like the whole Mossad thing. Were you familiar on the Frank Olsen story, Matt? Had you heard it before?
No, not before, you sent that to me. Yeah.
What was your impression of this video? Have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched all of them. Well, just the last one that you included in that list, I didn't have a chance, but I watched that one. I like that one. I thought that was interesting. I mean, it does sound very, very like fishy,
Maddie's worried about Fort Detrick people coming and killing him in the middle of the night.
Well, so I mean, I thought it just sounded like they just were gaslighting like the shit out of him. It's like they dose him with LSD, he freaks out, and then they're like trying to like convince him that he's like he's not like going crazy. It seems sketchy. I guess what I was wondering, like, did they like what was the purpose of dosing him though? Like, because he like had he been talking about that because I one of the other videos that he'd expressed
because then they can test him.
Right.
And now he's got it in his system.
And the whole idea was to see what they would say. Like all of them are scientists. So you dose them with acid, and do they start babbling like all their secrets, and they're telling you what they're clearly not supposed to be? I think that was the initial thought. And the next video that we get into, it gets a little bit deeper into the goals of MK Ultra. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and watch just a couple of more minutes of this, because the motive as to why they may have killed him, other than just this LSD, I thought was real fascinating. And this was actually the first time I'd heard this component of it.
Well, I thought it was because he went to him and said he didn't want to do it anymore.
Right. You're right.
He was having like guilt and shit.
He didn't want to do his research anymore.
And because they were torturing people. Yeah. And play this. I think it goes for another minute or two.
From the CIA, I think it's pretty obvious what happened. Frank Olsen was one of only a few scientists who could confirm that the United States used chemical weapons in the Korean War. This is something that's still only alleged, but there's a lot of evidence it happened. Korean and Chinese soldiers were suddenly coming down with cases of cholera, meningitis, and even plague. It's possible Frank Olsen was directly involved in deploying these illegal weapons. Frank Olsen was one of only a dozen or so people on Earth who knew the extent of MK Ultra and other secret and illegal CIA operations. Frank Olsen was a man who committed or at least was part of projects that committed atrocities around the world. And he was dealing with a moral crisis and started voicing his concerns. He even quit, but the CIA wouldn't allow it. When he was dosed with LSD that night in November, it was a loyalty test to see what scientists would say if they were exposed to the drug. Frank Olsen failed that test and paid the ultimate price. But because of his death and the diligence of his family, many illegal CIA activities were exposed, and MK Ultra was almost destroyed. Almost. It continued for another 20 years before finally shutting down in 1973. At least, as far as we know, all the records were illegally destroyed. And not Sidney Gottlieb, Robert Lashbrook, or any of the senior scientists from MK Ultra were ever brought to justice. In fact, they all lived out their lives on fat pensions paid for by you and me. But the CIA promises that MK Ultra was the last time drug experiments were done on people against their will. And such atrocities absolutely could not and would not happen today. Why would they lie?
Yep, there, we're done with that one. Why would they lie? So I deeply believe as a conspiracy theory that they're still out there fucking around with us, right? Not for one stretch of the imagination do I think that they've stopped doing what they're doing, the CIA. I believe that all this division that we see inside of the United States, I believe that's intentional. And I believe it's probably part of their grander plan. What do you think the takeaway is from the Frank Olsen, the mystery of Frank Olsen?
I don't know.
Kenny, any takeaway?
I told you he doesn't want to get fucking fucked with.
Oh, he's afraid of the CIA.
No.
No. Look, if they're not, no one's gonna come. I mean, come on, this is all.
No. I mean, it just sounds like he kind of like had this sort of like. He was realizing what he was doing was really morally wrong, and
morally wrong. Dark stuff, man.
And who knows if he might have just gone home and lived with his family. Like who knows whether he was even going to go out and expose all this stuff. He might have just been like, you know what, I'm done. I'm moving on.
I can't do this.
But they were just like, we can't let that happen.
Right.
Like so. No, it definitely sounds like this was all planned. Especially like having them lie about the guy being a psychiatrist. I mean, that's really messed up. Like just this guy was just bullshitting him. Right. So no, I think the guy seemed like he just got mixed up and and something that he didn't realize the extent of what he was going to be doing, and then was like, wow, this is.
It's questionable, even if he's someone that you would even want to consider as heroic, because like earlier in the White Files, they get into the stuff that he, as a scientist, was pioneering. I mean, so his stuff was deadly, dangerous, ultra top secret. It's a fascinating story. It really is.
Well, here's my take on it. Don, you're watching a video with a guy who's talking to a fish.
A fish? And I love the whole...
I'm going to tell you right now, man, that's not a good look. So the other thing is, there's a lot of mood music in there. Like they already got the story. The story's there, right? Right. Is it? Or is the music... hitting your emotions, and
this one
it's hitting you.
I think with the Wire Files, and they are really popular. I think he has a high production value. I think his show looks good. I think he's a good narrator,
and he likes to talk to fish.
He throws the fish in there, hecklefish. The fish is called hecklefish.
All right,
for a little bit of comedy. All right, let's take a look.
$10 says the name is really Jasmine or something like that.
Well, it's definitely. Sorry, just
Shoot.
I watched another video too, where the one of the ones he sent, where like the guy he was staying with, when they went up to the hotel after he jumped, he was just like kind of sitting there, and and then the curtains were like this way, so there was just a lot of weird things, and like because like if somebody jumped out a window, like the first thing I feel like you would do is like call 911 or call call the hotel, and the guy was just kind of. Definitely, it was too sus.
There is that. So because you watched the video all the way through, so
they said he gets
for some reason the guy didn't call, but he did call somebody.
Yeah, and they listened to it.
And they figured it out, right? Gautier or something, wasn't it?
He calls, and he says
he's gone or
he's gone, and the guy on the other line says that's too bad.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then to have Mossad go, it's the perfect case, right? Like, this is the perfect murder. You take the dude and you throw him at least 75 feet.
13 stories.
Yeah. Oh, jumpers. I could never, like, if I'm gonna do suicide, it's not gonna be jumping. I worked over at Frederick Memorial Hospital, right? I worked in their psychiatric unit. There was a guy that went on top of the parking deck, and that's how he committed suicide. Jumped off the parking deck there. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, let's watch the next video. I picked out, this one is, it's called Project MK Ultra. It's also, I thought
take
was
a leak real quick. Is that all right?
all right. Yeah, shoot, and we'll go ahead and play this while Kenny's in the bathroom, and we can just leave this screen up for a minute.
The most illegal of these entire sub-projects. But that's not saying much. Both American and Canadian citizens were used as test subjects against their will or knowledge. At the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Dr. Ewan Cameron would lead one of the most twisted projects of the late 1950s and early 1960s. Subproject 68 was fully funded by the CIA, who also paid Dr. Cameron $69,000, or in today's world, nearly $600,000 to carry out secret CIA experiments. Dr. Cameron was heavily interested in being able to erase and reprogram the human mind, and the CIA could obviously use that kind of power in many ways. These experiments would become so severe and damaging that patients who came into the hospital for symptoms such as minor anxiety and depression would leave with their minds fried. They'd experience amnesia, they'd forget how to talk, their brains would be completely wiped, similar to that of a baby. Cameron's patients were subject to some of the most mind-altering drugs and methods known to man. LSD, electroshock therapy at up to 40 times their normal power, drug-induced comas for extended periods of time, and much, much more. Take the case of Linda McDonald, a typical mother who is experiencing the harder parts of being an adult: depression, physical pain, lack of sleep, and so on. She visits Montreal to be assessed by Dr. Cameron, and almost immediately, he diagnoses her as a schizophrenic, and sends her to what is known today as the sleep room. And this is where it turns bad. Cameron decides to put Linda McDonald into a drug-induced coma for 86 days straight. In the sleep room, patients were often subject to this electroshock therapy, multiple times a day for weeks on end, without any consent. Linda McDonald was subject to over 100 of these shock therapy sessions. As time went on, she went from being able to tell the doctors her name and information about herself to having her brain completely wiped. In a 1998 documentary, she states,
I had to be toilet trained. I was a vegetable. I had no identity, I had no memory, I'd never existed in the world before. Like a baby. Just like a baby that has to be toilet trained.
She eventually was dismissed from the hospital and went back home to her family. However, she had no recollection of these people, or even knowledge that these people were even her own family in the first place. This isn't the only case that happened at the Allen Institute, though. Various other cases took place. In many cases, patients would be recorded during therapy sessions talking about their families, or other people, or things that would bring them negative thoughts or have negative impacts on their life. These negative messages would then be cut up and played on repeat for these patients, sometimes over hundreds of thousands of times. This exact thing happened to Robert Logie. He was admitted to the institute for a leg pain. They thought it was all on his head, and he was then sent to the sleep room. He was given LSD every 2 days, sometimes mixed with other drugs. And then, while in a drug-induced coma, the message, "You killed your mother," was repeated to him for 23 days straight. These experiments would take place on all ages, from children to old men and women. Many of the children at this institute were the victims of abuse, and in one case, one of the children were filmed performing sexual acts with multiple government officials as a plot to secure funding for these experiments. Cameron died in 1967 without anyone in the public knowing about what he had been doing for the past decade.
You can go ahead and bring that one down, Nick. So that's just touching on some of the darkness behind MK Ultra. We talked a little bit about MK Ultra in an episode that we did with Jay from SBK Entertainment. That episode was called shit. I think it's called. I can't remember. It's
Is that the guy with the fish?
Well, we do the CIA, LSD, and Charles Manson. And this Gotta Live guy that they're talking about, he is involved in the whole Manson thing too, right? Like that guy shows up again and again and again in some of the more crazier stories from the late 60s. But MK Ultra, I had first got introduced to it. I was in the 80s when I was in DC. I picked up some book about it, and that was the first time. And I was fascinated with the whole idea of like mind control, the ability to manipulate people and get them to do whatever you wanted. I went on. I saw they did. It's a film called The Manchurian Candidate. With what's that actor's name again?
Denzel Washington.
Well, that's in one of them, but the one Frank Sinatra is in the original. I couldn't remember that last time. Frank Sinatra is in the original black and white Manchurian Candidate, which is a fun film. What do you think, Kenny? Is there a possibility of mind control? Are they out there doing this? Continuing with their research?
Absolutely, and just go to Walmart and you will find out exactly what mind control is all about.
I was thinking too, like, did you see what Jared shared a couple of days ago? Like the graphic design, like you'll read this first, then you'll read that, then you'll read this. It's that kind of stuff. Like I understand, like studying in psychology.
Look in the corner. Look on the guy's nose.
Yeah. The mental tricks, but when they start with the whole drug and you know, and you see the similarities in what they're talking about with this research and what they did at Abu Ghraib during the Iraq War, but I would hate to just be in the wrong hospital at the wrong time, right? I would not want to. They're scary stories.
I mean, maybe in high school taking LSD every 2 days would have been fun, but not now.
Well, let me tell you, kid.
2 days.
That's fucked, man.
There's a sleep room where they put the woman to sleep.
Well, you couldn't take it every day because you had to keep taking higher doses. You couldn't take it every day. You had to wait a couple of days. So.
Every other day. All right, let's take a look at the very last clip that we had before we wrap this show up. I found out that there's a movie based on the whole... Oh, I forgot about this one. Play this one out. Yep, do it. This is a recent...
CIA's secret mind control experiments are back in the spotlight. Newly released documents reveal details about MK Ultra, a 1950s program using LSD and hypnosis to study behavior control. Pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly reportedly supplied large amounts of LSD for that project. Some tests were done on unsuspecting Americans, including prison inmates. National Security Archive, marking 50 years since the program's exposure, compared the research to Nazi experiments and criticized the lack of accountability.
One of the fascinating things that we found out when we were doing the story with Charles Manson is all of these hippie fronts in San Francisco were all fake, right? They were literally CIA-funded, CIA operations, right? These party pads where people would go and get dosed with LSD. They were all ran by the CIA so that they could gather information. They had this clinic. They ran this long time clinic, famous free clinic in the Haight-Ashbury. CIA ran it, And this guy who
well, they sound pretty cool to me. I don't know what the fuck the big hubbub is. You know what I mean?
You finally got your free health
Jesus
insurance,
Christ!
right?
They are the epitome of that commercial or the propaganda thing where it's like drugs are bad and they're walking around in vans asking kids, "Hey, you want some candy? Come on here." They were them. But I tell you, man, they weren't in my fucking neighborhood, and I'm a little pissed off about it.
Me too. I'm upset I didn't get my free LSD. Crazy.
I did get some free LSD here and there, but it was just from buddies. No,
yeah, me too.
nobody in suits.
Yeah,
and, you know.
Yeah, anytime anyone showed up in suits,
I probably
you knew to
like
run.
people in suits more often if they fucking ran around. Hey, here's some heroin.
Free,
you know?
Yeah, here's some free drugs. All right, so this.
Just kidding, Nick. Just kidding, man. I wouldn't do that. Not in this neighborhood.
This.
Unless is that what goes on in this neighborhood? I'll come here and hang out if you want.
This is a trailer for a film called MK Ultra. I think it came out in 2022. It is available for free on Tubi. I think I will watch it, and it might be the core of a future episode. But let's take a look at the trailer.
Are you a member?
No.
Are you a member or have ties to extremist groups or organization? No. Do you use drugs or alcohol?
Yes.
Do you trust Agent Morgan? Are you ready to begin? I'm gonna fund your research, Doctor.
Push the boundaries of science, the full support of the government.
It's enough to drug the whole state.
Funding. That's what you always wanted.
Can't figure out what to make of him.
The CIA supported young psychiatrist experiment.
Shelley Powers, arsonist.
It's Laura. Why were you arrested?
You think I'm sick?
Politics and science make the worst of friends. I had some questions about where my research is being taken. I don't like questions.
Has mind control been achieved?
What the hell do you think you're doing?
We turn our eyes away for even a moment. Filth will overcome us.
Jason Patrick, that's pretty cool. I liked him. I think he's from Lost Boys of all things. I think he was in Lost Boys. Yeah, for me, it's always fascinating when things that were conspiracy theories are now part of like mainstream culture, right? So MK Ultra is hardly a little bit of a secret nowadays, right? For me, the belief is the root of all evil. It's, you know, where all grand conspiracies begin inside of, you know, MK Ultra. Before we bring this to a close, let's go ahead and plug anything that you guys want. Say anything you want. Y'all want to discuss anything else? I'm open.
There you go. I think we've got everything out, right?
Yep. Follow. How do people follow you on Facebook? And, you know, let's hit that one last time.
Yeah. So Facebook, it's facebook.com/rock from your anus. That's URANUS. And then if you just type in Cosmic Halitosis, Instagram. And then anything else like streaming YouTube music or Spotify or whatever.
And you guys have a show coming up in Martinsburg next Saturday night at Tilty McFlippers.
Yep.
So, Kenny, you want to plug your radio show one more time, your podcast?
Right. Punk Up the Airwaves at yahoo.com is an email that you can send your music to if you're any local bands or anything. You want us to play your music on the radio or our podcast, you know, just give us a holler at fucking Punk Up the Airwaves at yahoo.com. And don't forget, go fuck yourself.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Nick, go ahead and bring us out.